Attention! Attention! This is not a corny video that I typically do, or one of my weird stories, but this information could help you as a creative build a strategy for your social media business. So if you're interested in something like this, continue to watch. This may not be just a regular funny old corny video that I typically do. This is more informative. So if you want to know more about creating a social media platform, stick around. Hello guys, my name is Beatrice and welcome to my channel. Today I wanted to talk about building a strategy for your social media presence as a creative. I help creative businesses develop a strategy for the social media platform and the content to go with it. So majority of the time, the issue I run into is our creative businesses do not know how to develop a social media strategy. And what helps is to know the moving parts to it. Here are 10 tips to help create just that for you. The main purpose people use social media is to build brand awareness or awareness to the customer. Companies are using social media as an alternative for marketing. It's because it's free and convenient to the user. A social media platform gives you the opportunity to communicate directly to your customer versus traditional marketing that is impersonal. So while developing your own social media strategy, your main objective is to have somebody follow you for the purposes of a sale in the end of it. But we're too busy selling and we're not realizing that a lot of people are just mostly seeking out information. We could be posting for 1 or 2 times a week and realize I'm not getting anything in return, so this is not worth it. The majority of the time is because we're ill-informed and we don't realize how much work it entails and the type of work you have to put into for your social media platform. There are 10 tips for you to follow in order to create a very successful social media platform, but realize that this is not a sprint, this is a marathon. It takes quite a bit of while to have that type of organic reach for your customer base. Please subscribe to this channel if you genuinely want to learn more about social media. My business is social media branding photography. I help with building your social media strategy, photography, and everything that ties into your brand. If you follow these 10 tips, you could create a successful social media platform strategy. So this strategy is specifically to develop organic reach. This strategy is not specifically to create ads on Instagram or Facebook, but this is for organic purposes. In order to have a successful social media platform, you would have to do both. But today I'm going to cover 10 tips to create a successful social media platform. For many of you that are starting out their social media journey, here are a couple tips. First tip is to start with one platform. It is really hard starting out because there's so many platforms all at once. Too many times we get overwhelmed by how many platforms there's out there. There is Twitter, there is Snapchat, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook. So many platforms out there and we feel like we have to master them all. As a creative, we have the beautiful opportunity that we have the content. But what we do with that content and how we use it is what matters. Don't overwhelm yourself with trying to master everything. Work little by little. Rome was not built in a day. So if you feel more comfortable with Facebook, start out with Facebook. If you like Instagram, start out with Instagram. Okay, so you chose the platform you want to use. And now you're trying to figure out how to use the content. It's amazing to focus on what you do, but majority of the time the audience wants to know the why. If you give the opportunity for the audience to understand who you are as a person first, you would develop better engagement. Let the audience know who you are by telling them your favorite, letting them know your why you're in business, why you're starting out this new journey. Let them get to know a little bit of your personal life. It doesn't have to be too much, but enough so they could relate to you and connect to you as an individual. This tip is amazing because it helps you build on what you're already doing. A lot of people get overwhelmed with so many technicalities and rules that are placed for social media, but what I highly recommend is to phase it out. So for example, if you want people to start liking your page so they can know that you exist, so that you could have people actually follow your content, that should be your goal. follow people, start sending messages, direct messages, and introduce yourself to the area. Introduce yourself to people that are in the same field or industry that you're in. And in that phase, you do it for 30 days and continue to do it. Either way, you don't see results, because what's important here in each part of each platform, it has an algorithm, and what makes you thrive more in that algorithm is consistency. It filters you out with the spam profiles and everything else, but what you do is you do it consistently and thoroughly and to the best of your ability to start developing better skills at creating a better strategy. Did that even make sense? So the fourth tip I would say is practice makes perfect. So continue to do that same method over and over again until you feel like you're thriving for at least 30 days. Before, the third tip was phase it out into increments of 30 days. But now I'm saying practice makes perfect, meaning like if you want to do Instagram stories, keep doing it until you get to the rhythm of it. And try to master one thing at a time. Don't try to take on the whole platform, which Instagram stories could be one, and then Instagram videos, and then the posts, and then the hashtags. Like, try to master one thing at a time and try to do it the most effective way possible. It helps to see all these big profiles out there and see what they're doing, and try not to copy but try to simulate what they're doing in a way that you get the concept, the core concept of it all. Now, the fifth piece of advice is very essential. In order to maintain consistency, you have to create a strategy that's realistic. In a perfect world, you should have enough content for each day of the week for all platforms, but it doesn't work like that. Start with a social media strategy that's more realistic to you as an individual. So if you're a mom of 4 and you have a business and you go to school and you go to work, make sure to squeeze out, for instance, an hour a day. If you could block out an hour a day specifically for your social media strategy, your content, everything that has to do with your social media, and make that consistency. That is the only way, because then over time, you'd perfect the other variables that it has to entail with your social media strategy, and in that way you'll be able to be more effective when you do it. So it's very important to create a strategy that's realistic for the purposes of it being consistent, which is one of the biggest things that the algorithm looks for, is consistency, and that way you'll be able to have engagement in a bigger audience. The sixth piece of advice is be consistent. I keep saying it because that's one of the main things that you should do, and the hardest things that you run into by building your own platform, your own social media presence. But one thing that would allow you to be consistent is if you block that 1 hour a day, like I mentioned previously, but schedule it in apps like Hootsuite, and there's various other apps that allow you to schedule out your post. But do that. Select a day so you could just post, then another day to build the content, and then another day to write the content within it, and then another day to polish everything out to make sure it looks good in a weekly basis. That way you are consistent and you have your whole week's worth of content out the way. So when the next week comes along, you already have the content for the following week, and that way, the minute you do post, comment. The seventh piece of advice is, when you're trying to develop a strategy for your social media presence as a creative, is if you place yourself in the shoes of the audience that you're trying to aim, your ideal customer, your demographic, and you're trying to figure out if I'm worth following. That sounds like are you sending the message your ideal customer wants to hear? The hardest issue we run into is figuring out, you're like, I'm not psychic, how would I know what they want? So what I found useful was that I interviewed somebody who I would typically see as an ideal customer, and I'd ask them all the same questions. How would you decide on who you're going to go for, a photographer, or who you're going to decide for as a financial advisor, or whatever industry you're trying to progress in? Ask that specific person who would be your ideal customer, and that way you'll be able to get in the mind of the customer and figure out what message do they want. What message do they want, and can they relate? That's how they build that connection. That's how somebody would click automatically a like or a follow, or if what you want them to do is subscribe, is because in whatever you're saying in that whole message, ask yourself, will I follow this account? Be honest with yourself. I look at my own account and I don't think I'm worthy of following, and that sounds bad. It does. It sounds really bad. But the reality is you want people to follow you, and you have to reevaluate yourself and see if that account, content within it, is following the same message my customer wants to hear. Am I making the proper presentation of my company or my product? Is this the proper presentation of who I am as a business person, as an individual, as a family man or family woman? And do your own case studies. You don't need a big corporation to realize that you could do your own case analysis and really figure out if it's worth doing. A lot of people build a strategy and it flops on them because they miss the element of research. Make your social media presence relatable to the audience you are trying to follow. The piece of advice that is number 9 is always respond to your customer. Respond to what they have to say. It's great customer service, and it also helps them realize that you are a live person and you are relatable and you are attainable. A lot of people do not like doing business with people they feel intimidated by. So if you come off as an arrogant person and you're mean and you never respond to what they're trying to tell you, they take that a little bit personal. Now, this is business and somebody being a fanatic are two different things. Make sure to respond any questions they may have, message them directly, try to figure out in what ways you can help them. The main objective of that is to help your customers obtain the knowledge that they're trying to inquire. The 10th piece of advice is be fun and genuine. You can be robotic, because if they wanted to follow a robot, they'd probably follow a robot. But if you're not fun and genuine, and if they feel like you're not attainable, like I said previously, and it's a huge web that ties within itself in the core of the matter, is that you have to be fun and genuine. And it doesn't have to be fun like you making jokes all the time and you being corny. It's fun that when you look at the information, you feel entertained. You genuinely have to do it as the person giving the information. Don't do something that you feel like you're being compromised. Oh, because I have to release content, I just have to give anything out. That's how you lose followers. That's how you lose subscribers. That's how you lose people on your page, is by realizing that you lose people by them smelling that you're not being authentic, you're not being fun, and you're not truly enjoying what you're doing, because people naturally attract to radiant, happy, passionate people. They don't naturally follow to or gravitate to somebody that's depressive, mean, and angry. If that's your demographic, okay, but what I'm saying is that be genuine to the material you release and the content you release, and be authentic. And you genuinely have to enjoy what you're doing in order for it to be successful, because you could keep pushing, either way you don't see the results, and you just genuinely enjoy the process of it all. So people really could smell that. People really could really see if you genuinely love what you are